Jennette McCurdy is an actress that I felt kind of connected with at a young age because of her role in the show iCarly as Sam Puckett, who was my favorite character on iCarly, and arguably the best one. People also said that we looked alike back then. She's only a few years older than me, and back then I had the same hair as she did, the long, dirty blonde with the curls, and I think that's the reason for the comparison. I didn't watch Sam and Cat, more on why not later, but she kept popping up. For me, as someone who's chronically on YouTube, I kind of kept seeing her face. She had a web series around the time I think that Sam and Cat was canceled. More on that later. And in 2020, during the pandemic, she popped up again on my YouTube. I think the first video I saw was like about ED recovery. She also had like a funny song about COVID. And she was starting a podcast, which I listened to a few episodes of and thought was really cool and really interesting. And then this book pops up. I start seeing her in interviews promoting this book, and I just had to get my hands on it because I knew how interesting of a person she was because of her podcast. So let's get into it. This book starts in Jennette's childhood. Her mom and her are best friends and have a special connection that no one else could understand. At this point, Jennette is not aware that her mother is actually her abuser. Trigger warnings for almost everything in this book. This is a very heavy read, especially she goes into a lot of detail about EDs. If that's something that's triggering to you, probably just skip this book. But in this video, I'm not going to be discussing those extensively at all. Her mom inflicts almost every type of abuse on her, whether that's emotional, physical. It's always under the guise that she cares about her daughter and wants the best for her. Most importantly, she wants Jennette to be an actress. Of course, being a child who just wants to make her mom happy, Jennette doesn't really have any say in this, and it is not something that she chose for herself. As a little girl, her relationship with her family is very complicated, and I think it can be summed up pretty well with this quote at the beginning of chapter 23. Her grandpa says, "A little girl shouldn't have to worry about her entire family." And Jennette responds, "What?" I ask, not because I didn't hear what he said, but because I'm confused. Of course a little girl should worry about her entire family. That's what little girls do. So, to me, this was very telling, because she doesn't have any other childhood to compare her own childhood to, of course. So she believes, of course, it's my job to worry about my entire family and be very in tune with everyone's emotional state and make sure I'm doing everything I can for everyone else, because that's the only thing she knows to do. As far as her family goes, her grandpa is kind of the only one that has her back. Jennette goes to auditions and does her best to act to please her mom because she just wants to make her mom happy. She's very talented and she starts booking a lot. It's crazy to reach the part in this book where she gets cast on iCarly, because this book goes from me reading a completely unfamiliar story to something that I can actually visualize because of my memories of the show. When you're watching a show on TV, especially as a child, you're kind of just picturing all of the celebrities going home to their fancy houses. But things are not so glamorous for Jennette. She's filming this hit show and going home every day to a hoarder house where she has to sleep on a mat on the floor. The light in this dark, dark tale is that her and Miranda Cosgrove were actually good friends in real life, which, if you don't know, they were Sam and Carly. So that warmed my heart as a fan of the show, and because up until now in this book, Jennette doesn't really have any allies, so it made me very happy for her to see her have like a good, healthy friendship. We learn a little bit about Dan Schneider in this book, only referred to as the creator, probably for legal reasons, and his gross behavior. He just seems like all around a terrible person. Out of all Disney Channel and Nick shows, I think iCarly is kind of my favorite, or was, and I don't think I'm going to be able to rewatch it ever again because just knowing how Jennette was just doing terribly pretty much this whole time the show was filming, I wrote and circled the email. So there's a point in this book where Jennette goes to Hawaii with her boyfriend, and she has to kind of lie to her mom about who she's with because, you know, and her mom does find out who she's with because of leaked paparazzi photos, and she sends Jennette the most disgusting, horrible email. To me, I saw this as potentially a turning point because she is away from her mom, and maybe she'll see all these disgusting words and names her mom is calling her on a screen in front of her, and she can kind of get it. This is not the turning point for Jennette. That comes much later. But for me, reading it, I found it absolutely disgusting that a mom could use this language towards her own daughter, calling her every horrible name in the book, insulting her weight. You want to like shake the book. Look, she's insane. She's crazy. She taught you your eating disorder. But of course, abuse is much more complicated than anyone outside looking in could ever understand. We get to the part where they're filming Sam and Cat, which is a spin-off of iCarly and another Nickelodeon show called Victorious. And I never watched the show. I think I watched like the first episode because I love Sam Puckett, love Jennette, wanted to see like what the show was, and it's just like I've been watching this channel called Quentin Reviews. He reviews like old Nickelodeon shows and stuff like that. And he points out that Sam and Cat is so bad to us because this is kind of the age where television was kind of losing preteens and teens to the internet because of the rise of YouTube and all that. And he thinks that because of that, this show was geared towards toddlers, literal babies. And that's why the jokes are so dumb, and that's why it does not hit with a teen audience. And I think he's right because this show was just so stupid and bad. And yeah, this was an irrelevant side note, and I'm sorry, I just had to include this. But you should check out Quentin Reviews. His videos are like literally 5 hours long, but you can watch them in segments. They're really good. Okay, back to the main video. It's just not good. Maybe I grew out of it at that point. Jennette was not happy with this show either, and she also reveals that her and her co-star Ariana Grande did not get along, and I want to kind of take it back to the web series I was talking about in the beginning. That was released on YouTube, I believe, or at least that's where I saw it. I remember watching this back then. It's like a really short web series written entirely by Jennette, and Jennette also stars in it. It's called What's Next for Sarah, about an actress named Sarah, and it does mirror some aspects of Jennette's life. Not to turn this like very serious video into a gossip video, I want to mention this real quick. I have a point, I promise. This made headlines as a feud with Ariana Grande when Jennette writes a character into this web series that is very, very clearly supposed to be Ariana. It's a very over-the-top version of Ariana, over-the-top annoying, talking about herself, and very clearly making the statement that she does not like her. Back then, I didn't think this was very nice. I watched this again recently, and can I say, it's actually a really good web series. I liked it. I laughed out loud a few times. Jennette is so clearly very talented. I know that she never wanted to be an actress, but she's a very talented writer too. You can tell from her writing for the screen and this. And I feel like it isn't really a situation where you need to take sides, like Team Ari or Team Jennette or whatever. None of that, because it's very obvious to me why these two people did not get along, and it's because they were in completely opposite mental states during the filming of Sam and Cat. Ariana is like at the very beginning of becoming a superstar. Things are really taking off for her. She's getting opportunities left and right. She gets to miss filming for magazine shoots and stuff, whereas Jennette says she wasn't allowed to take other opportunities. Ariana is so happy. She's thrilled with what's going on in her life, and she's very vocal about it, whereas Jennette is in pretty much like a completely awful, terrible place mentally at this point. She hates the show she's working on. She hates acting. She's like, what am I even doing here? all while going through like tons of internal struggles, family struggles, having a terrible relationship with herself and her body. How could these two people possibly get along, you know? So I guess from that we can take away, I don't know, these are just people, and next time you see a headline about a feud between two celebrities, just like ignore it, I don't know. Major takeaway, this book makes me wonder about all child stars, and I mean all of them. Every time I see a child on screen, I'm wondering what's going on behind the scenes. Did they choose acting, or did their parents choose acting? Allison Stoner actually posted a video about a year ago called The Toddler to Trainwreck Industrial Complex, where she talks about her struggles with being a child actress. At 6 years old, she goes to her first audition and has to act out being kidnapped and assaulted. She talked about how impressionable you are at such a young age and how you don't really have a good sense of your reality yet because you're so young. So like the difference between acting and reality can get kind of confusing, and can you imagine how damaging that is for a little child to act out such a violent and adult scenario? She advocates for mental health professionals on every set and stricter labor laws that can protect children. Jennette thinks that children shouldn't be allowed to be famous. She talks about how her one happy place, her one escape was going to Disneyland where her grandpa worked. And as soon as she's famous, she simply cannot go to Disneyland anymore because, I mean, where are kids who watch shows like iCarly? All at Disneyland, they all recognize her. She can't even have that peace anymore, that escape. She hates every aspect of being famous. All in all, I think I'm a Jennette stan now. I don't think I've ever unironically used the word stan. She's very talented. I hope she writes or directs a movie, or you know what, ultimately I hope she follows literally whatever passion her heart desires, because God knows she's had enough of other people telling her what to do. That's it. I think that you should absolutely read this book if you want to be blown away. This is the first celebrity memoir I've ever read. It's not usually my thing to read a celebrity memoir, but I just had to pick this up and I'm so glad I did. It's so well written and entertaining. I could not put this down. I think I finished it in just a couple days. It's a very heavy read, but Jennette has such a way with words to make it very, very interesting and even funny at certain times. Highly recommend. Thanks everyone for watching. This is my new channel. Subscribe if you want to hear me talk about more books. I mostly read YA, so it's going to be more of that. I don't know if I'm going to read another celebrity memoir anytime soon, but I mean, feel free to give me suggestions if there's anything I should read. Alright, peace.